And that's the live stream and recording started, convener.
Okay, thank you. Right, welcome everybody to this meeting of the Aberdeenshire Licensing Board. Please note that it's being live streamed and will be recorded and published online for public viewing after the meeting. Can members attending please activate their cameras to enable you to join by video, and can all attendees mute their microphones when not speaking? Please do not come in during items unless I invite you to do so. Can I confirm that all members have been able to access the papers for today's meeting in advance?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
And as usual, if members wish to speak at any point, please raise your hand in the Teams meeting. Or if you end up dialing into the meeting, you can raise your hand by pressing *5. If any members lose connection or have any technical issues during the meeting, please alert the Deputy Clerk by a separate Teams instant message if possible. Support will be available from Kathleen Mysick on 01467 546 227, the ICT officer, during the meeting if required. Can we now go to the Deputy Clerk, please, for the sederant?
Thank you. Please confirm you're present when your name is read out. Mr. Stuart Adams.
Present.
Ms. Dawn Black.
Present.
Mr. Jeff Crowson.
Present.
Mrs. Marion Ewanson.
Present.
Mr. Jeff Goodall.
Apologies now from Mr. Goodall.
Apologies, thank you, Chair. Mr. Trevor Mason.
Present.
Mr. Richard Menard.
Good morning. Present.
Mrs. Jenny Nichol.
Present.
Ms. Mel Sullivan.
Here.
And Mr. Ian Taylor.
Good morning. I'm here.
Can I also confirm we have Sergeant Neil Grant for the police?
Yes, I'm present.
And we should have Keith Simpson. No. Lisa Gadini.
Present, thank you.
Sorry, present. Keith Simpson here.
Kevin MacDonald.
Present, thank you.
Sarah Ward. Not present. And we have myself, Barbara Alexander, as Solicitor and Deputy Clerk, Beatrice Hare, Administrator, Clark Simpson, our Paralegal. We will have Sarah Rochester in the meeting for item 9.1, and recording the meeting today is Harriet Devondale. We have our trainee solicitor Mike Saint present, and the officer in charge of the live stream today is Jenny Mearns. So we have one apology from Jeff Goodall. And Keith, do you want me to put Sarah down as an apology?
Yes, please.
And apology from Sarah Ward. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. That takes us to declaration of members' interests. Members, please state if you have an interest to declare, and if you have, please clarify by giving the item number, the nature of the declaration, and whether or not you will leave the meeting. No interests to declare. I don't see any indication. Thank you. Then we move on to the equalities resolution. So in making decisions on the reports, members are reminded of their legal duty under Section 149 of the Equality Act 2010 to have due regard to the need to eliminate discrimination, harassment and victimisation, advance equality of opportunity between those who share a protected characteristic and persons who do not share it, and to foster good relations between those who share a protected characteristic and persons who do not share it. Do members agree to the resolution on equalities?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 3 on our agenda is the minutes of the previous meeting. These are for approval as a correct record only. Can we agree the minute?
Agreed.
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 Okay, and then we move to our first item of business for today, item 4, which is the applications for major variation of premises licence, non-contentious. And we have 2. And I think it's Harriet is going to take us through those today.
Thank you, Chair.
Or the first one, sorry.
Yeah.
Just the first one.
So the first application is for Forbes Arms Hotel in Afford. This is a variation to amend Section 5 of the operating plan to provide activities out with core licensing hours. Section 5 and 5F are also being amended to provide information regarding the activities taking place at the premises. Section 6 of the operating plan regarding the parts of the premises that children and young persons have access to have also been updated. The premises licence description has also been updated along with the layout plan and the capacity of the premises. There was representations made by both our LSO and Environmental Health for standard local conditions to be applied. This has all been agreed by the applicant and we'd be looking to grant in full.
Okay, thank you. Do members have any questions, or do you wish to discuss the content?
No.
No. So in that case, in terms of the recommendation at 1.2a, does the board have sufficient evidence to allow a determination to be made?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And then in terms of the recommendation 1.2b, having determined that there is sufficient evidence, should the application be granted or refused?
Granted.
Grant.
Yeah.
Grant.
Granted. Okay, so that application for the Forbes Arms Hotel, Bridge of Afford, is granted. We then go on to the second application, and that's Mike Saint is going to take us through that one, and that's for the co-op at Hill of Bankery.
Yes, this is a variation to add a home delivery service to the operating plan and amend the description of the premises to include the service. The certificate of confirmation has been provided by the applicant. There were representations made by Police Scotland to include a recorded age verification system in respect to remote and online sales of alcohol. Our LSO recommends that standards local conditions apply to the licence if granted. The applicant has accepted all conditions stated, and we would be looking to grant this variation in full.
Okay. Any comments or questions from members? No. So in that case, again, does the board have sufficient evidence to allow a determination to be made?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And in terms of recommendation 1.2b, having determined there is sufficient evidence, should the application be granted or refused?
Granted.
Grant.
Okay, so that one is also granted. Okay, thank you. So we can move on then to item 5, which is a hearing. So I think the applicant is in the meeting already. Yes.
That would be Kathleen Flynn.
Yes, she's in the meeting. Yeah. So this one is a determination of whether a premises licence has ceased to have effect, and it's a hearing for Deja Vu at 30 Queen Street, Peterhead. We'll just need to make sure. I think she is in the meeting already. So just for the benefit of parties being brought into the meeting for the purposes of the hearing, please note the board meetings recorded and published online for public viewing after the meeting. And I will now ask the Deputy Clerk to confirm the procedure for the hearing.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to emphasise that this is not a hearing for a review of premises licence on the basis that the annual fee has not yet been paid. However, the procedure for a review hearing is appropriate for the board to use in this matter. The purpose of this particular hearing is to consider, in terms of Section 28 of the Act, whether the premises licence for Deja Vu still exists or whether it has ceased to have effect. I have brought this matter to the board following notification from the Licensing Standards Officer, Kevin MacDonald, who is also present in the meeting, that the premises has ceased to be used for the sale of alcohol for some considerable time. The provisions of Section 28 are set out in full in the legal test, which forms Appendix 3 to the report. Further, the board's policy does make provision for allowing premises that have been closed for a period of 4 months or more to apply to the board for an extension to closure on good cause shown. This was previously 3 months under the last board policy. Our records show that no requests have been made by the premises licence holder for extension to closure during the period the premises has been closed, and I can confirm the annual fee for the licence was paid in 2023. Finally, should the board determine that the premises licence remains in effect, officers will arrange for the outstanding annual fee to be paid by the licence holder, and the premises licence will be updated to reflect notification of the premises licence holder's current contact details. The premises licence holder has lodged written submissions in response to the letter lodged by the Licensing Standards Officer, and these form Appendix 5 to the board report. Members will note this includes a business plan belonging to a potential tenant of the premises, and I can reassure the board that the tenant has provided written consent to allow us to enable this document to be published in full. The procedure today is as set out in Appendix 4 to the report: to hear from the Licensing Standards Officer, hear from the licence holder, ask the Licensing Standards Officer if he wishes to respond. Members may then ask questions of either party, concluding remarks by both parties in reverse order, and then seek to have the legal requirements advised by myself, or to adjourn or to debate the matter in public, and then move to a decision. The licence holder has admitted in the written submissions that the premises licence ceased to be used for the sale of alcohol in December 2022. The sale of the premises information relates to a potential sale or lease of the premises and how the premises may be run by the person who takes on the premises. What the board is being asked to consider today relates to the operation of the premises under the current premises licence holder. Thank you, Chair, and I'll now move to the procedure set out in the appendix.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute there. So thank you, Fiona. So can I first of all confirm that Kathleen Flynn is present and here to represent City Centre Pubs Dundee Limited?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello. I'm here. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah. Okay, welcome. Are you satisfied that you've received all the relevant information, and do you feel able to participate in the determination of this matter?
I do, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I then confirm that Kevin MacDonald, the Licensing Standards Officer, is present?
I am. I'm here, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And are you satisfied that you've received all the relevant information and feel able to participate in the determination of this matter?
I have and I do, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So in line with the guidance you've received in the public participant meeting protocol for licensing board hearings, please can you mute your microphone when not speaking if your phone permits this. Please do not speak unless you're invited to do so, and please do not interrupt the other speakers. If you do, you may be removed from the meeting. Once you've been asked to make concluding remarks, you're then not entitled to speak again unless to answer a question from a board member. Once the board has made its decision, you will be asked to leave the meeting. If the board requires to adjourn to deliberate the application, the recording of the meeting will be paused and the board will retire to a separate online meeting room. Please wait in the main meeting room until the board members return and I can resume the meeting. At that point, the recording of the meeting will be restarted. So first of all, I'll go to the Licensing Standards Officer, Kevin, to speak to his letter.
Thank you, Councillor Ewanson and Board. This is in regard to Deja Vu, Queen Street, Peterhead, in regard to the premises licence having ceased to have effect. It's brought about in regard to Section 28, provides a premises licence cease to have effect on the occurrence of any of a number of events, and Part 5B provides licence premises in respect of which licence was issued cease to be used for the sale of alcohol. The board's own policy at 615 that also provides where any premises ceases to be used for the sale of alcohol for a period of more than 4 months, the board will conclude that the licence has ceased to have effect in terms of Section 28 of the Act. Background to the premises held a licence since September 2009, and the licence holder at the time was Park Leisure Dundee. Last variation was granted to change the premises manager to Nadine O'Rourke, and there's an issue with some files on our system not providing any further information. Working back, letters and emails sent out for the annual fees in 2024-25 sent out on 29th of August 2004, and the emails sent out for Deja Vu were returned as undeliverable through the email system. The annual fees were not paid at this time. In September 2024, Police Scotland executed a drug search warrant at the premises and found 1,800 cannabis plants recovered from within the licensed area. Therefore, the annual fees were not pursued after this. My last visit to the premises was carried out in July 2022, and the last known opening of the premises was for a bingo loco event. And in my initial submission, I said November 2022, but I'll accept that the licence holder has stated that this was December 2022. I'm quite happy to accept that. A similar event was advertised for May 2023, but this was subsequently cancelled. The premises have been closed for over 2 years, with the last known event taking place in December 2022. The premises has been advertised for sale for most of this time, and the agent confirms that the premises have not been trading. There's been no correspondence with the licence holder, and the email address provided by them returns correspondence as undeliverable, as is stated for the annual fees. Given the last update regarding the premises is that it was used for unlawful cultivation of controlled drugs, it's requested that the board determine that the premises now cease to have effect under Section 28 of the Licensing Scotland Act and the board's own policy. Further to this, I appreciate that the licence holder has advised that there are new potentially new tenants to come in. I'm concerned that a policy, an operating plan and licence that has not been in effect since 2022 will not match what the new tenant will be taking to the premises. Thank you.
Convener, you're on mute.
I keep doing that, sorry. So thank you, and it's now over to you, Ms Flynn, to present the licence holder's case to the board.
Hello?
Hello, yes, we can hear you.
Firstly, we have made the minor variation to change the address. We did try to pay the annual fee once we realised that it hadn't been paid. The new tenant is ready to go in and will operate under the existing operating plan in place. We do think that would be it'll still be the same operation plan. He would still be running under that, and it would be, sorry, I can't find my words. It still would be appropriate to what he's wanting to do. We will oversee everything with him, and it will be managed closely. Obviously, there will be a change of premises manager, but yeah, everything is in place and ready to go. And we feel, obviously the drugs, we had leased it out, and we're told it was getting open to the nightclub refurb, and then this happened. We worked with the police closely as soon as we found out that what had happened. We've tried to pay the annual fee. We have paid the annual fee, but it hasn't been refunded. We did do the minor variations to change the address, which has been accepted. There's really not much more I can say other than what I've put in the letter. I've apologised for not getting in touch with Kevin sooner. I didn't realise that we had to do an extension for closure for the licence. That's our fault and bad management. I do feel when a premises is open, you're on top of everything, and then when it's closed, things did get forgot, and it's not acceptable. So I do apologise, and everything is in the letter that I submitted. So that's all really I can say.
Okay, thank you just now. We'll come back to you with, there'll be questions.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. MacDonald, is there anything you wish to add, having heard the submissions from the licence holder?
Yes, just firstly to clarify, there's no requirement for the licence holder to contact myself. The requirement is to update the board, and it's a legal responsibility to maintain contact with the board, regardless of the circumstances, in regard to the tenant, any sale or lease agreement. I'd just like to highlight that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So it's now over to board members. If you've questions for either of the parties. First of all, Mr. Croson.
Thanks, Chair. If I could ask Ms. Flynn, what date was the tenant who was taken over, who said that they were going to refurbish the premises, what date did their lease start?
The lease started in May 2024. He had a few visits from the January till the March, and then once we got everything through the solicitor, it took effect in the May 24. We did have a lot of other interest before then, but he was the only one.
And you have stated in the report that it was closed from, when I was saying December 22, December 22.
Was the last,
so do you acknowledge that that's quite a time that you have declared yourself that the premises was closed and not selling alcohol or being used for the purposes of the premises license?
Yeah.
And that you didn't, in fact, ask for an extension because it was on the market for sale.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't even realise that, to be honest. So that's my fault.
But you accept that's the facts of the case that we're looking at just now.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any more questions? Mr. Taylor?
Yes, good morning, convener. Good morning, Ms. Flynn. You commented that the tenant it started in May 24, but it's that, and I understand that it's the Deja Vu, the premises is still closed. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So the tenants went in May 24. He was going to be doing a refurb. I tried to get into the premises in August to see what was going on because there had been no movement as such. I couldn't get access, and then the police obviously executed the warrant in September. It's taken months of repairs, specialist cleaning teams. It was a massive clean-up operation. So we only got it kind of back on the market to lease from December, January time. And we do have a new tenant ready to go in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so now we have a question from Ms. Black, please.
Thank you very much, convener. Going back to your answer to Mr. Croson, you said that you had a lease from May 2024 for a new tenant, but as far as I'm aware, there was no transfer application made at that time from the previous personal license holder and the change, the minor variation for the change of management. Can you confirm whether that was applied for or not at that time in 2024?
No, it wasn't applied for then. He leased it with the intentions of doing a refurb He leased it with the intentions to do a refurb for looking to open September, October, then he was going to put in variations. So we were going to do everything obviously at once, like the premises manager change and the major variation for the refurbs that he had stated that he was going to be doing would have needed a major variation.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? No. In that case, we'll go back to the applicant. Do you wish to say anything in closing, Ms. Flynn?
No, thank you.
Okay, Mr. MacDonald, do you want to add anything?
My only concern is that Ms. Flynn said that in May 2024, new tenant went through the solicitor, and whether or not the solicitor provided any licensing advice and guidance on providing updates to the board to ensure that it was fully aware.
Okay, do you want to answer that one, Ms. Flynn?
Yeah, no, again, apologies for that. And going forward, we have made sure that the tenants are complying with licensing, and we will also be keeping a very close eye on changes going in, variations, and keeping up to date with the board.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's
and
just,
I was just going to add, you know, before obviously all this had happened and before closing it, you know, I do believe that we were a very good operator and we didn't, you know, cause any issues with licensing, and we'll go back to that standard and keeping due communications and complying and keeping on top of it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Crowson?
If I could clarify an opinion from Kevin MacDonald and maybe some confirmation from legal, Fiona Stewart, because we're talking about this other tenants who, because the date of that is beyond the premises having been closed for 4 months, which I believe is the question that we're asking just now, and because there wasn't an extension for closure applied for, that in fact this other thing that's happened in this date is not what I'm judging this on. It is the actions before that date that is the facts of what we are dealing with just now. And so therefore it had been ceased trading for more than 4 months and an extension hadn't been granted, and that onus is on the premises holder at the time. And this is before any of this other stuff happened, which I am not judging this on at all.
Chair, if I can come in.
Yeah.
I can confirm that you're purely looking at this in terms of Section 28 and the part of Section 28 that says the licence ceases to have effect, and the provisions of the board policy that stipulates that if premises are closed for more than 4 months, they have to request an extension to closure on good cause shown. Otherwise, the board takes the view that the licence has ceased to have effect. All of the other things could have been dealt with by way of application to the board or notification to the board. There's nothing to stop the board accepting the annual fee as a late payment if the board deems the licence has continued to remain in force and in effect. So it's purely the fact that the licence has ceased to trade in alcohol since December 2022 that we're talking about here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the other members require advice from the clerk? I think that's quite clear in what Ms. Stewart just said there. So can I go to you again now then, Deputy Clerk, to outline the terms of the legal test for the application?
Thank you, Chair. Just bear with me a second till I get the page in my papers. So as set out in Appendix 3, the legal test is Section 28 of the Act and the board's policy. And the section that we're looking at is the test says where a premises licence ceases to have effect on the occurrence of any of the events mentioned in subsection 5, the licence ceased to have effect. Subsection 5B is the only ground that we are concerned with here, and that stipulates that the licensed premises in respect of which the licence was issued cease to be used for the sale of alcohol. That if there's a transfer or a variation or one of a number of things within a period of 28 days of that taking place, Section 28 does not kick in. But none of those exceptions are appropriate in relation to this. So we're purely looking at this in terms of Section 28(5)(b) and the board's policy that the licensed premises in respect of which the licence was issued have ceased to be used for the sale of alcohol. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Do board members wish to retire to deliberate?
No.
No. No. In that case, I'll open the matter for members to debate. Please confirm that you've received sufficient evidence upon which to make a decision if we're getting to that point. Mr. Mason, please.
Yes. Yeah, which is the if the property is being used for illegitimate purposes, how do we know that the property is okay for a licensed premises, a nightclub? How do we know that? Is there would the LSO actually go in and check, make sure everything's suitable to be used as a licensed premises?
Yes. At the request of the board, the licensed and standard officer could go in. But I would say that that is currently a criminal matter sitting with Police Scotland, and it's not been formally drawn to the attention of the board other than by the licence holder. So that is not something that we are taking into consideration here today. Is purely whether the current premises licence holder has been using that licence for the sale of alcohol, or whether the closure of the premises for such a long period means that the licence has ceased to have effect.
Okay, I think that's quite clear. That's the matter, members, that we're looking at today. Mr. Crowson.
It would be my view that after the period of 4 months and no extension was asked for, that any other matters that has been put forward here doesn't apply if we consider that the licence has ceased to exist. We just want to be careful about continuing with further conversations on that other delicate matters, which I do have sympathy for people who have maybe been at the end of a criminal activity through no fault of their own, but that is not the matter that I'm considering just now. I would be minded in the mind of you that the licence has ceased to exist, and would be prepared to put something forward after debate to that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Taylor.
My view at the minute is the fact that it has been closed for quite a considerable time between December 22 and May 24. There was no extension of closure notified, and that long period of time sits heavily in my mind, and I'm thinking that we do consider that the licence has ceased. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Menard, please.
Apologies, sticky button there. Yeah, I have a mind to agree with my colleagues here on this. So if we come to put forward a motion, I will be willing to put forward a motion.
Okay, I think we could actually move on to that determination. Can I just get members to confirm that they feel they've received sufficient information upon which to make a determination?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I'll call for a motion. Mr. Crowson?
Having considered all the evidence, I would put forward the motion that the premises licence has ceased to exist because it extended the period to 4 months for being used for the conditions in the premises licence, and that no extension was applied for. Having considered all the evidence, I don't see that I could come to another conclusion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Have we got a seconder? Mr. Menard?
Yes, I would second that motion in line with my colleague there. Under section 28 and section 5B, the licence is no longer valid. It's the premises is no longer serving alcohol for an excessive amount of period of time. So therefore, I would second that motion.
Okay, thank you. Is there any amendment? No amendment? So in that case, can just confirm the motion, please, Fiona?
The motion is that the board has determined that the premises licence has ceased to have effect in terms of section 28(5)(b) of the Act because it has been closed for an excessive amount of time and no request for an extension to closure has been made. Chair, do you want to ask the board to confirm if that decision is unanimous so that it's clear for the licence holder?
Yes. Is that a unanimous decision, members? Please indicate otherwise.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Agreed?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Do you want to just confirm the decision then?
Yeah, the decision, Ms Flynn, is that the licence has ceased to have effect under section 28(5)(b) of the 2005 Act. You will get written notification of this within the next 7 days. What I would advise is there's nothing to prevent any future purchaser or tenant, or indeed yourselves, for applying for a new premises licence, so it doesn't prevent the premises from opening to trade in the future. A new licence can be sought and lodged at any time. Thank you for attending today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms Flynn. So I can confirm that this hearing has now concluded. Thank you all for your interest in this business, and I will ask you to leave the meeting. I was hearing a live stream in the background there, but it might just be that phone. Yeah, okay. So thank you, members. Moving on then to item 6, which is an application for a provisional premises licence. Again, it's a hearing for Campus & Co. Peterhead. And the officer taking the report again is Ms Stewart. And this time we're looking at the over-provision policy, and the applicant is Tempo Group Limited. And I think we have Mr Whitburn in the meeting representing the company. And the licensing standards officer again is Kevin MacDonald.
That's correct.
Okay, is Mr Whitburn in the meeting? I think he is.
If you use *6 to unmute your phone.
Yes, sir.
Okay, welcome. So please note that the board meeting will be recorded and published online for public viewing after the meeting. I will now ask the Deputy Clerk just to confirm the procedure for the hearing.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, an apology on our behalf. Pages 278 to 285 of the board agenda have been included in the report in error and should be disregarded. It's an incomplete set of local conditions. The full set of local conditions are as set out in Appendix 4 to the report, starting on page 286. So pages 278 to 285 should be discarded. All provisional premises licences must be considered by the board itself. Most of these applications, as the board is aware, will be classed as non-contentious and can be granted without the need for a hearing. This application requires a hearing due to the board's policy in relation to over-provision, as highlighted in the representation made by the Licensing Standards Officer. I can confirm there are no objections to the application from either members of the public or any of the statutory consultees. The premises are a retail warehouse located in a commercial industrial area of Peterhead, offering the sale of groceries and housewares, including some deliveries to members of the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church community only, and not to the general public. The board has found that where there is over-provision in respect of off-sale off-sale premises in Peterhead. Where the board has found an area to be over-provided, this creates a rebuttable presumption against any grant of applications for provisional premises licences in terms of the grounds of refusal set out in section 23(5)(e) of the Act. This means that the applicant needs to provide justification to the board with sufficient evidence to allow the board to determine whether a departure to the board's over-provision policy is justified in respect of this application, and in particular how the operation of the premises will comply with and promote the 5 licensing objectives, and the extent to which the benefits of granting the application outweigh any harms identified in the board's policy. The harms identified in setting the policy in respect of which the applicant needs to provide evidence can be summarised as follows. There's a higher than average evidence of deprivation in Peterhead, and that includes multiple deprivation, income deprivation, health deprivation, and deprivation as a result of crime. There's a higher than average risk potential relating to the sale and consumption of alcohol. Availability of alcohol is higher than the Aberdeenshire average, and the current numbers in Peterhead are 18 off-sale premises, 16 on-sale premises, and 16 premises selling both. This represents an increase of 1 off-sale premises and 4 premises selling both since the over-provision policy was implemented by the board, and the capacity of alcohol displays is higher than the Aberdeenshire average of 43.1 metres square. There's also a higher than average potential risk of alcohol-related harm. The licensing objectives engaged in setting the over-provision policy are the prevention of crime and disorder and protecting and improving public health. A summary of the board's findings is set out at paragraph 3.11 of the report, and Appendix 3 sets out the board's over-provision policy in full. I would draw the board's attention to paragraph 3.29 of the board's policy, which is on page 236 of your papers. It stipulates that the board reserves the right to grant such applications where it considers that the licensing objectives would not be undermined by the specific in the application, or that these objectives would not be undermined if the applicant's operating plan were to be modified or the grant of the licence made subject to appropriate conditions, and that no ground of refusal other than over-provision would apply. It does, however, state that it's for the applicant to demonstrate to the board by providing robust and reliable evidence that the grant of the application would not undermine the licensing objectives, or that the benefits in granting the application outweigh the board's over-provision policy. No written submissions have been lodged by the applicant, but he is present today. The procedure is set out at Appendix 7 of your report, and that is to hear the applicant, hear the Licensing Standards Officer, give the applicant an opportunity to respond, ask questions of both parties, concluding remarks in reverse order, consider whether an adjournment is required or legal advice is required, and move to a decision. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Fiona. Can I now just confirm that Robert Whitbourne is present and that he's representing the Tempo Group Limited?
Yes.
Yes. I'm not hearing you very well. Can you maybe try saying?
Yes, that's correct.
That's better, yeah. Are you satisfied that you've received all the relevant information, and do you feel able to participate in the determination of the application?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Can I confirm that Kevin MacDonald, the Licensing Standards Officer, is present?
I am.
And are you satisfied that you've received all the relevant information and feel able to participate in the determination of the application?
Yes, I have, and I do.
Okay, thank you. So for the benefit of those joining the meeting, in line with the guidance you've received in the public participant meeting protocol for licensing board hearings, please can you mute your microphone when not speaking if your phone permits this. Please do not speak unless invited to do so, and please do not interrupt the other speakers. Once you've been asked to make concluding remarks, you're not entitled to speak again unless to answer a question from a board member. Once the board has made its decision, you will be asked to leave the meeting. If the board requires to adjourn to deliberate the application, the recording of the meeting will be paused and the board will retire to a separate online meeting room. Please wait in the main meeting room until the board members return and I can resume the meeting. At that point, the recording of the meeting will be restarted. So first of all, I'll go to you, Mr. Whitburn, to outline the terms of the application to the board and to address why the board should grant a departure to its over-provision policy in order to grant the application at this time. And you will then get further opportunity to address the board after the other parties have spoken. So it's over to you, Mr. Whitburn.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, that's good.
Yes. I can confirm what Kevin has put in his statement, that the premises are being used solely by a small church community with no access to the general public. Also that there are provisions in place to ensure that only members have access. The store acts as a safe place for members to shop with their families and does not pose a risk in terms of alcohol-related harm or public nuisance. We fully support the licensing objectives. I understand the need for over-provision and fully respect it, but in this case I submit there's a clear case for making a difference in a similar manner that members' clubs are excluded from over-provision regulations. I'm happy with all the conditions that have been proposed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, Licensing Standards Officer Kevin MacDonald, do you want to speak to your representation now, please?
Yes, good morning again, Board. I won't go over the over-provision policy as the clerk had done a far better job than I would. Again, I can confirm that Mr. Whitburn, the applicant, that the premises for the sole use of a closed community. Other members of the public will not have access to these premises, and it's managed in multiple ways through a membership recorded on the checkouts. Customers must be members before they can gain access to the building, and members must also have access. There must be members to gain access to the car park to the premises. It's managed in a multitude of ways, and this is a recognised closed group. I've no objections to the application, and the only reason that the application has been presented to the board is because it falls under the over-provision policy. The applicant has been fully cooperative throughout and made changes to ensure full compliance with all the other board's policies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Whitburn, have you anything you wish to add, having heard the submission from the Standards Officer?
No, nothing further. Thank you.
Okay, so now it's over to board members to ask questions of the parties. Mr. Menard, please.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Whitburn. You say it's for members only. The thing, how can you guarantee the membership is only going to be? I'm reading through the papers very briefly there. It says it's a key code entry. Okay, I can live with that. However, I would prefer myself to see some sort of swipe card entry in the on the premises, because that would be a little bit more secure. Would you not agree?
Thank you. Yeah, we haven't gone as far as that. It seems we have been in operation since the 16th of November, I think it is, 2024, and we haven't had any issues with others coming into the premises outside of the community. So I'm willing to give it consideration if it's felt strongly to be a requirement. We are all known to each other in the community, and we can communicate between each other. I chat on our phones, and that's how the number is circulated. It doesn't go outside the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Nichol, please.
Thank you, convener. Yeah, I have another question for the applicant, and it's related to the keypad for the purpose of anything outside opening hours, really. So the keypad access, I wonder how many code holders are there at any one time, and how is it recorded who holds that code? Is there a list of approved sort of code holders that you are aware of so that there is no issues with who could have been in the building at any one time? Thanks.
Yes, thank you. All the members are known to one another, and there is a provision for letting the members know of a number or any change of number. I think there's about 70 code holders, and we consider each other to be trustworthy, and it does work. Does that cover?
Could I come back in there, convener?
Yes, certainly, certainly.
So strictly speaking, those 70 members could access the building at any time or just during the opening hours?
In theory, at any time, although the alcohol is only available during hours when there's other staff there to man and authorise the sale of alcohol. There's a closed shutter, electric shutter, which is operated by a key that has got very restricted access, and you can't access the alcohol when there's no other staff there. So persons can come and shop for other groceries at other times, not buy alcohol.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay, thank you. I think that's the reassurance you were seeking. Mr. Adams, please.
Thank you, convener. Mr. Whitburn, could I ask a question? What's the geographic catchment of your members? How far does it extend from Peterhead? Does your membership range? Thank you.
Thank you. The membership in Peterhead itself is 39 households, and there are another 41 households, I think, in Aberdeenshire. Most of them are congregated around the church hall we have in Balmedy. They're all this side of the main city of Aberdeen. That ranges between Balmedy and Ellen. A lot of them are serviced by online. They can go. They can put their orders on an online system and have the goods delivered. But a number of them would regularly visit the shop as well.
And one supplementary question, convener. How is membership determined? What makes a member? Thank you.
They're solely members of the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church community.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Crowson, please.
Thanks, Chair. I wonder if I could ask about the shutters. As you said, it's a digital key or something. How many people would have availability to open that shutters, and how many of the people available to do that would actually hold a personal license for the sale of alcohol?
Thank you. I personally am the only person that holds a personal license, but anyone who has access to the key has been trained according to the regulations, and has passed the sufficient test to have access to the key and be able to sell alcohol with my permission.
That's fine. Thank you.
The store.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Taylor?
Yes, thank you, Convener. Morning, Mr. Whitburn. You've commented that it's a member shop. I should like to ask whether your members acquire all their daily requirements from the shop, or whether they use other outlets in addition.
Thank you. No, there's nothing binding on the members to just use this shop. So many, or most, I would say, do use it as a safe place and a friendly place to meet other members. But no, we also shop at all the general other supermarkets, Asda and Lidl and Morrison's and others. No, there's no restrictions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Black, please.
Yeah, my question's on a similar vein to Mr. Taylor's. You said in your submission that you totally respected the premise behind over provision within Peterhead. So you've already said that there's no restriction on your congregation using other places to buy their provisions, whether it be food or for alcohol. So why do you feel that you need to have a license to sell alcohol in your premises?
Thank you. Well, the situation is we've had a community grocery store in Peterhead for over 20 years of our own, and we've just moved into this new premises, and it's the first time that it's been big enough to include alcohol, which just helps that people can get everything they want there rather than having to go to different shops.
Okay. So it's mainly for convenience then?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, I don't see any further questions. I'll go back then
Sorry,
to...
Chair.
Oh, Mr. Crowson, yeah.
Sorry, a bit slow. It maybe was in the papers, or maybe missed it. Can I just check what sort of CCTV there is in the area that would be selling the alcohol, and the entry with the key card, with the keypad?
Yes, thank you. There is a CCTV system which has about 7 or 8 points, including the alcohol sales area and the till area and the entrance area. Yes, that's in place.
So just come back and be that. So if, say, LSO had to do some checks and that to check that conditions was being met, then there would be recordings available.
Yes, that's right. And the LSO and the local police have the codes, so they have full access to the premises at any time.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Can I just ask there, you wouldn't expect the LSO surely to be attending if there were no members of staff on the premises?
Can I come in there?
Yes,
sorry. I know I'm not supposed to interrupt, but
that's okay.
They have a condition of the if the license is granted, and certainly with the occasional licenses, is that they provide the key code for the premises during shop hours when not staffed. And they have provided the key code number to both myself or the LSOs and the police. They've already done that, and certainly the keypad system is very extensive, both at the car park, the door, and they also have a till that's programmed to prevent sales after designated hours, and the locked shutters for the alcohol are all covered by CCTV, and the staff, as Mr. Whitburn was trying to explain, I think, are all fully compliant with staff training according to any licence.
Okay, thank you. So I'm actually coming to you now anyway to see if you have any closing remarks.
My apologies then, perhaps I shouldn't have interrupted there. Yeah, I can confirm that Mr. Whitburn has provided the keypad entry system to myself and to the police licensing officers, and the local policing inspector's been provided with that number. The till is programmed to prevent sales after the licensed hours, and people have to be members to use the electronic tills. Mr. Whitburn has taken me on a fairly extensive tour of the premises. It is all covered by CCTV, multiple CCTV points, internally and externally, and the staff have been trained in accordance with licence requirements.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Whitburn, do you wish to say anything in closing?
No, thank you. Nothing more to add. Thank you all.
Okay. So now over to board members. Do you require any legal advice from the clerk today? Mr. Mason?
Yeah, there's just one thing I would like to ask the clerk. Do we go into recess for this? Yeah. Just some legal advice.
No, this is just asking for legal advice.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm asking for legal advice here.
It's up to the board to determine whether it wishes to adjourn to debate in private or whether it wishes to debate in the main meeting. Any legal advice I give the board will be repeated if you do decide to adjourn on returning to the main meeting.
Yeah, it's quite a simple thing I was going to ask is, are the same rules being applied to this group as any other membership group, membership licensed premises?
Right. In relation to other, I think you're referring to members' clubs, which are exempt from over provision. Members' clubs are both on and off. A lot of them are just on sales premises, and the Act provides certain exemptions for members' clubs because of the nature of the clubs. It doesn't do that for off sales. There's no exemptions for off sales that are restricted to a certain group, so you can't compare them with members clubs. You have to treat this as an off sale license in the same way as any other premises. What you are looking at is there sufficient justification that this is an exception or is sufficiently out with the normal running of an off-sale premises to justify a departure to the board's over-provision policy. It's restricted to members at the moment. If you deem the application should be granted, any variation to open up those sales to members of the public would require a major variation application to be brought, which would come back before the board.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Mr. Mason?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the same rules are being applied to the Plymouth Brethren as to any other club that has members. That's all. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions from members to the clerk? No. So in that case, over to you, Ms. Stewart. Can you outline the terms of the legal test for this application, please?
Thank you, Chair. The legal test is set out at page 296 of your papers. The grounds of refusal are that subject premises are excluded premises. That does not apply here. That the applicant is applying within 12 months of a previous refusal. Again, that does not apply here. That the board, having regard to the licensing objectives, believes the applicant is not a fit and proper person to hold a licence. There's no evidence before the board to demonstrate this. A potential ground of refusal, that the board considers the granting of the application would otherwise be inconsistent with one or more of the licensing objectives, but I would say that ties in with the last ground of refusal rather than on its own, based on the evidence presented today. And that having regard to the nature of the activities, the location, character and condition of the premises, and the persons likely to frequent the premises, the board considers the premises are unsuitable for use for the sale of alcohol. Again, I'd query what evidence is there to support that ground of refusal before the board. The main ground of refusal, and the only ground that this has been referred to the board on today, is that the board considers that if the application were to be granted, there would as a result be over provision of licensed premises or licensed premises of the same or similar description as the subject premises in the locality. And I would say to the board, you have to ask yourself, has the applicant provided sufficient evidence to justify a departure to the board's over provision policy, in this case to enable you to grant the application? If the answer to that question is no, then the application should be refused. But if you consider there is sufficient evidence to justify a departure, then you should discuss granting the application. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Do members wish to retire to deliberate? Is that a no? No, okay.
No.
So in that case, it's open now to members for debate. Mr. Crowson?
I'd be of a mind that there was sufficient evidence, given that the over provision maybe wouldn't be a consideration, is a consideration, but wouldn't be taken into full account here, because the over provision would have been accounted for in statistics for the whole area, Peterhead, and the entirety of the population, and this is going to be a limited population by way of membership, that it isn't going to over provide to the whole of Peterhead.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Nicholl?
Yeah, I'm of a similar mind to Mr. Crowson. I think the applicant's demonstrated that it's 70 members across Aberdeenshire. So whilst, of course, we have to consider over provision, I don't think the licensing objectives would be undermined in this case. And I think I would be of a mind to grant.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Black, please.
Thank you. While I agree with the sentiment just put forward, my main concern is after questioning the applicant, the main, the reason for putting alcohol in is for the convenience of members, as opposed to a need for them to buy alcohol in a particular place. So I'm a little bit ambiguous at the moment as to where my mind's going to go. So I just wondered what other people's thoughts are.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Menard, please.
Yeah, I'm also like-minded on that bit, but however, the evidence before us, to my mind, gives us justification to depart from policy, and subject to local conditions, I would then look to sort of like, think along the lines of granting this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Adams, please.
Yeah, I'm of similar vein to Ms. Black, that convenience and the reach, the geographic reach, and I know it's 70 households, not 70 persons. I'm of a view that it's not been demonstrated sufficiently. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more contributions? Mr. Mason? Can't hear you. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. I was just like to say I'm in the same mind as Ms. Black and Mr. Adams. I can't. I can see the justification for both. However, these over provision rules were brought in for a reason, and there is plenty of places in Peterhead to buy alcohol. Do we need more? Is that what we need? Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I think that's basically the question. Mr. Minard, you referred to seeing sufficient evidence. I think it was you that said to be able to depart from the over provision policy. Do you want to just make it clear what evidence you were referring to?
Well, they're not restricted to just the Peterhead area. Their membership goes further and further afield. So, to my mind, like I say, if it's only a few families within Peterhead and the rest of it's without the that area, I think that's justification enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. 39 Peterhead households, I think, was what Mr. Oh, no, I think it was Mr. MacDonald that said that, was it? And 41 out with Balmedy and Ellen sort of area. Mr. Crowson.
I'll acknowledge what other councillors have said, and would have been kind of that mind myself if it wasn't for the fact that they've been using occasional licenses already. There is already the things set up there for occasions of acquiring alcohol, and we have been encouraging people to move away from the occasional licenses onto a permanent license. And although this is a provisional, it seems to be a step in that direction. So that's sort of just.
Remember the assessment and the expectations around occasional license are different.
Which is why we've been questioning about the keypads and everything for the grant of this license.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Stewart wants to come in at this point.
Just to reiterate and reinforce what you've just said, Chair, that occasional licences are subject to a completely different legal test that is nowhere near as stringent as the legal test you are applying today, and nor does the over provision policy come into play with occasional. So you must restrict yourself to what you have before you today in making your decision. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So the only comment that I was going to make here is if the premises here were the only available place where people of this membership were comfortable or were able to buy alcohol, that was kind of what I thought it appeared in the application. But the applicant's representative today did state that they can use alternative provision, and there are many alternative outlets in Peterhead. I think that needs to be taken into consideration. They do have other options. They're not restricted to using this one place. Are we ready to move to a determination then? I don't see any more comments. So can I just confirm with members that you've received sufficient evidence upon which to make a decision?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Can I call for a motion at this stage? Ms. Black?
Yeah, thank you. I would put forward a motion that we refuse this application because of the over provision policy. I do not feel that sufficient evidence has been placed before us today in order to go against policy. We have that policy for a reason, because we have too many off licenses in Peterhead, and I think we ought to stick to policy. Thank you.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Miss Sullivan? No. Mr. Mason? You're on mute again.
Can't believe I'm doing this. Yeah, yes, I would like to second Ms. Black's for the same reasons. Sorry, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I have a motion. Is there an amendment? Ms. Sullivan?
Yep, I propose an amendment to accept the application. I don't believe it goes against the provision, the over provision policy. If this is serving 39 families in the Peterhead area, let's say that's 80 adults. There are about 12,000 plus adults in Peterhead. The proportion of adults therefore served extra is what, 0.5% perhaps? So I don't, apologies, is that, Fiona, is that actually articulating my reasons clearly enough?
I think what you're saying is that there's sufficient evidence in that the premises will serve a select group of people rather than the population as a whole to justify granting a departure to policy and granting the application in this case. Would that be, that's fine, thank you.
That sounds lovely. I just said all of that, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder? Is that Miss Nichol?
Yeah, I'm content to second. I think there has been that information before us to demonstrate that it's a small number, as Ms. Stewart said. But I also think the licensing objectives wouldn't be undermined in this case by granting. So I would be of a mind to grant.
Okay, so we have a motion and an amendment both seconded. So I wouldn't normally go for more comments, but Mr. Crowson has his hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to second the amendment
okay.
with the chance to add the comment that we're talking about convenience. And one of the places that we do give licensing out to is convenience stores, and that this isn't for the full population of Peterhead. As I said before, it's a limited amount, so it's not increasing the over provision for the entire population.
Okay, thank you. Noted. So in that case, any summing up? I'll go first of all to Miss Sullivan, please.
Would Jenny like to do it instead? I think she's more articulate than I am.
If that's okay with you, then we'll go to Miss Nichol.
I don't think I have much to add, convener. I think we've heard and that the applicant has demonstrated that it's a small number of in their membership, and I think that it doesn't undermine the licensing objectives and that we can grant this today.
Okay, thank you. And summing up for the motion, Ms. Black, please.
Don't have much to add, convener. Just to say that we did discuss long and hard about Peterhead and the over provision when we put it into the policy, and because the applicant has not demonstrated to me that it is a requirement for them as a closed membership to have alcohol sales, and that their membership are free to buy alcohol elsewhere in close proximity to this store, I don't believe that it is sufficient evidence to go against our policy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So can I ask Deputy Clerk please to confirm the motion and amendment?
Thank you. The motion is with Ms. Black, seconded by Mr. Mason, to refuse the application in line with section 28 E, on the grounds that there's insufficient evidence before the board to justify a departure to policy in this case. The amendment is with Ms Sullivan, seconded by Mrs Nicholl, that there is sufficient evidence in that the premises is serving a closed group of people and that it will not undermine the licensing objectives to justify a departure to policy in this case and to grant the licence. Can you indicate when your name is called whether you're for the motion or the amendment? Mr Adams.
Motion.
Ms Black.
Motion.
Mr Crowson.
Amendment.
Mrs Ewanson.
Motion.
Mr Goodall is not present today. Mr Masson.
Motion.
Mr Menard.
Amendment.
Mrs Nicholl.
Amendment.
Mrs Sullivan.
Amendment.
Mr Taylor.
Amendment.
I can confirm that the amendment is carried by 5 votes to 4. So, Mr Whitburn, I can confirm that the board has granted the application today as a departure to policy on the grounds that the premises will only relate to a small group of members and that the licensing objectives will not be undermined by the operation of the premises. You'll receive written notification of this within the next 7 days. Thank you for coming today.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you. And I can now confirm that this hearing has concluded. Thank you for your interest in this business, and I will now ask you to leave the meeting. And I think, members, we should have a short break at this point. So I'll ask for the recording and the live stream to be switched off. And if we come back at 5 to 12,